Hello, good evening. I'm Kubrali and this is Awaz News. Let's take a look at the top stories here in Canada. York police are looking for a suspect on an attempted murder charge in connection with a stabbing that followed a road rage incident in Richmond Hill last year. Investigators said Tuesday that officers were called to the area of Yonge Street and May Avenue north of 16th Avenue on June 21st for multiple reports of an assault in progress. They arrived to find a male victim suffering from stab wounds. Police said his injuries were described as serious but non-life-threatening. Police said the victim was involved in a road rage incident with another male before the stabbing took place. The suspect reportedly left the scene and came back with two other males who began assaulting the victim. One suspect was arrested at the scene. A second suspect was arrested on Sunday. Toronto resident Hamid Raza Safipour, 54, and Markham resident Ali Kia, 59, are both charged with attempted murder, aggravated assault, and uttering threats. Kia is separately charged with possessing a weapon for a dangerous purpose. In a news release, police identified Sayed Humad Mirmoghtadeh as third suspect wanted in connection with the incident. The 30-year-old suspect of no fixed address is wanted on attempted murder and aggravated assault. Police didn't say which suspect was initially involved in the road rage incident. Ontario's members of provincial parliament will get an extra long break from the legislature this summer as it takes a 21-week recess. The extended break comes after the legislature sat for 30 days following a 14-week winter break. Government House Leader Steve Clark says the House will come back on October 27, the day after the municipal elections, so as not to interfere with the process. Green Party leader Mike Schreiner says that excuse doesn't hold water as Premier Doug Ford's government interferes with municipalities all the time. He says the government cut the size of Toronto's City Council during the 2018 municipal elections and right now is trying to take away that city's control of its island airport. Interim Liberal leader John Fraser says he thinks the decision to avoid the legislature for so long is because Ford can't take the heat over controversies such as the purchase and abrupt return of a private jet. In a letter to his counterparts in the United States and Mexico, Canada-U.S. Trade Minister Dominic LeBlanc says he wants to renew the country's trilateral trade deal for another 16 years and opt out of an annual review process. LeBlanc is set to travel to Washington on Tuesday along with Canada's chief trade negotiator Janice Charette for a meeting with Greer as the CUSMA review deadline fast approaches. By July 1st, officials must notify their counterparts whether they want to renew CUSMA for a 16-year period or agree to an annual review process. Canada and U.S. have been in a protracted trade war for more than a year after U.S. President Donald Trump slapped a slate of tariffs on Canadian imports. While the vast majority of products are tariff-free because they are covered under CUSMA, several sectoral levies are still in place. As the July 1st deadline approaches, the U.S. and Mexico say they are making progress on their formal bilateral talks, but Canada has not been engaged in formal negotiations, and U.S. officials, Greer in particular, have made it clear based on their rhetoric that they want to review certain aspects of CUSMA and are unlikely to renew it for the 16-year period. Ahead of his trip to Washington on Tuesday morning, LeBlanc was on Parliament Hill for a cabinet meeting, but he did not take questions from reporters. Trump, meanwhile, revived his threats and making Canada the 51st state on Tuesday, sharing a news deadline by Bloomberg that Canada has dipped into a technical recession and adding 51st state. Speaking to reporters ahead of the cabinet meeting on Parliament Hill Tuesday, Prime Minister Mark Carney said there's a series of technical issues the U.S. has with Mexico, which explains their more extensive bilateral discussions ahead of the July 1st deadline. Wanting to respond to the Prime Minister's comments, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre also spoke to reporters on Parliament Hill Tuesday morning, taking questions in the hallway just outside the closed-doors Liberal cabinet meeting. Referencing LeBlanc's imminent trip to Washington, Poilievre accused the Canada-US Trade Minister of frequently visiting D.C. to socialize and come back empty-handed, adding the Mexicans have been eating our lunch for the last 6 months. Police are releasing images of a suspect wanted in what they're calling an unprovoked attack in Toronto's East End. In a news release issued Tuesday, police said officers were called to the area of Coxwell Avenue and Queen Street on May 17 at approximately 7:52 p.m. for an assault. The suspect and victim were on a streetcar when the assault occurred. The victim was taken to hospital with serious but non-life-threatening injuries. It's unclear if there was any interaction between the suspect and the victim prior to the assault. The suspect fled the area. Police said the suspect is in his mid to late 20s with a slim build, dark twists in his hair, and was last seen wearing a basketball jersey, black pants, running shoes, and black crossbody bag. Anyone with information about the incident is asked to contact police at 416-828-5500 or Crime Stoppers anonymously. Gas prices in the Greater Toronto Area are expected to rise by 8 cents per litre overnight following a brief reprieve in recent days, an industrial analyst says. Dan McTeague, who is the president of Canadians for Affordable Energy, told Awaz News that he expects the average cost of the litre of regular gas in the GTA will hit 177.9 cents per litre on Wednesday and could rise another 2 or 3 cents per litre on Thursday. McTeague urged anyone who is planning to take advantage of last week's lower gas prices to do it now. The best time to buy gas, he noted, is any time after 6 p.m. Heading into the summer, the industry analyst says he expects the volatility of the market will continue. He said this conflict has not only caused a bottleneck of oil carrying vessels around the world, but also resulted in the draining of strategic emergency oil reserves. McTeague added that while Americans produce 13 million barrels of oil a day, they consume 21 million barrels. So there is a heavy reliance on other countries, including Canada, Venezuela, and other Latin American countries for fuel. Major service disruptions are expected on Line 1 on Sunday and Monday as the TTC races to complete critical infrastructure work ahead of the FIFA World Cup. With a little over a week until the first match of Toronto Stadium, officials with the TTC spoke at a news conference on Tuesday, laying out the work it will complete on the subway system to improve reliability for customers during the tournament and beyond. The TTC is shutting down subway service between the St. George and Shepherd West stations on Sunday and running single-line service between Lawrence West and Wilson stations on Monday. Single-line service means both northbound and southbound trains will only run on the northbound tracks. Shuttle buses will supplement service. I know closures cause frustrations, and I want to just add a thank you note to our customers for their patience and understanding, but this work matters, TTC CEO Mandeep Lally said. Lally noted that riders should plan to add up to 20 minutes to their commute as a result of service disruptions. He said the work will eliminate 4 more reduced speed zones on Line 1. The TTC's new CEO said he has been aggressively targeting low-speed zones since he started 10 months ago, reducing the number from 30 to just 6. The TTC said they are hoping to remove reduced speed zone in one additional area southbound between Eglinton to Davisville stations before the start of the World Cup, but that work has not yet been scheduled. Although the service change will have an impact on commuters getting to work on Monday, Lally said choosing to do work on that day still does minimize the disruption as peak ridership levels are seen on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. When asked about why projects will not complete it soon, Fort Monaco, the TTC's chief operating and infrastructure officer, said the work was not last minute. The TTC was forced to take all of its work cars out of service in April while it investigated 2 hydraulic fuel spills that occurred during overnight work on the subway system. Not all work cars are back in service. Monaco said another thing that has hampered some work is changes to scheduled city events. We also try to minimize impacts to other city events, so in doing that, there have been a few changes to our closure plans, we have had to forego some weekend closures or single-day closures to make that happen, he said. Ontario Premier Doug Ford is pushing back against U.S. President Donald Trump's latest attack on Canada's sovereignty. I can't believe I have to say this again, but Canada will never be 51st state, Ford wrote in a post on Twitter Tuesday morning. Canada is not for sale. The remark was in response to Trump's reaction to a Bloomberg News article Monday about Canada falling into a technical recession. 51st state, Trump wrote on social media. The jab was then retweeted by U.S. Ambassador to Canada, Pete Hoekstra. 2 consecutive quarterly contractions meet some definitions for a technical recession, and 3 of the last 4 quarters in Canada have posted negative GDP growth. Trump's 51st state rhetoric has been ongoing since December 2024. Although it was first seen as a joke, it later developed into a real threat amid the ongoing trade war. Trump has since touted the economic benefits Canada would receive by becoming part of the U.S. and has referred to the border as an artificial line. Trump has made similar remarks about Venezuela. Prime Minister Mark Carney hasn't commented publicly on Trump's latest shot, but last week invoked the president's flagship slogan to speak to the importance of the cross-border relationship. A Canada strong will help make America great again, Carney told a New York City business crowd last Thursday. Hoekstra tweeted Carney's remarks and said they were worth repeating. On Tuesday, Carney acknowledged the weakness in Canada's economy, but stopped short of describing the current economic climate as a recession. Ford went on to say that Ontario created 680% more jobs than the U.S. adjusted for inflation in April.
Thank you for watching Awaz News. This is Kubra Ali. See you tomorrow. Have a good night.